بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Inshallah, today we will be covering a few interesting letters. Very easy. However, some of them, one letter in particular is a very important lesson, important letter, inshallah. Okay. So the first letter is this one over here, letter Ha. The letter Nun, two very simple letters. And then we have the Ain and the Ghayn. Okay. And those two letters are letters that generally, I'm sure many have been waiting for. And if it's your first time learning Arabic script, those letters, particularly this one over here, is very important. But we'll speak about it when we get there, inshallah. Let's start with the first letter, the letter Ha. Okay. Let's have a look at the shape a bit. The letter Ha appears in a word, and it will look like this over here in the beginning of a word. It kind of looked like a bit of a scribble. Normally when you're writing it, normally people just do a scribble. It looks like that shape over there. But if you look in the middle, you'll see it's a circle with just doing this kind of an arm over its head and going that way. Okay. Let's see in the middle of a word. It looks kind of like a bow or butterfly wings, right? Very easy letter to identify. And at the end of a word, it will kind of look like this, kind of like a horse. Okay. So the first thing you can see that this letter has many shapes. It has 3 shapes. In fact, it has another shape, a 4th shape. However, the 4th shape is very easy. It only appears at the end of a word. I did put it in the summary slide, so you can have a look at it there, right? I don't want to put 4 letters, especially if it's your first time learning. You want to look at the main shapes, and the 4th one you can look at in the slide. So let's focus on these shapes over here. So this letter generally takes the record for the most shapes. Okay, let's look at the sound. The letter Ha, as you can see, the letter H. So the sound is like the H in English to an extent, okay? However, it's more of a stressed version of the letter H. So to demonstrate that, we just need some words with the letter H, right? And just a few words with the letter H in the beginning or middle end. There we can just have just a few words. Have, here, hummingbird, home. Okay, heater. So I want to use the word home. Okay, let's use the word home. So the word home in English, so if you look at all these words, so listen to the H. Heater, especially heater, right? Heater and home. Can you hear with home? I'm hearing a bit of a from the kind of ear from the side of the throat, right? It's kind of a vibration there. But when I say heater, obviously even say different, heater, you don't hear the heater, right? So in English, the H is kind of inconsistent. However, the Arabic ha is always stressed. Ha, it will always have that vibration in the throat, right? So a way to practice that, and many struggle with this letter, they kind of always confuse it with the ha and the ha, right? So ha. What you can do is always look for the vibration. Like if you're breathing heavily, and feel the vibration kind of over here on your chest, that's the ha. So when you say the ha, it don't have to be a very heavy vibration, right? However, just try to feel some sort of vibration. Whether there's no vibration, you can see there's a vibration in your throat. Okay, let's do it. Let's try it in words, and let's see. Okay. Ha with a fatha, ha. Right? So you try to bring it out from kind of from your chest. It's more here, but you'll say from your chest because you'll feel the vibration in your chest. Okay. Halaka, halaka. Can you hear? It's not halaka, halaka, halaka. Right? The Arabic ha is always clear and stressed in the terms that it will have that the heavy sound from the vibration that's happening by the vocal cords. Halaka. Okay? Ha la ka. Halaka. Okay. In the middle of a word, he, and this might be particularly difficult, but with practice, he fahima. Okay? Fahima. 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 So as long as you try to make a difference between the ha and the ha, generally it's going to be fine. Okay. And the quality of the ha will improve as you practice. Okay. Hu. Here's at the end of the word. Kitabuhu. Kitabuhu. Right? Kitabuhu. 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 Right? And I know many will struggle with this letter. I've seen it, but you just have to move away from the English H, right? So that's why you just move away from the English H and know that it's just a bit more stressed. And then when you stress it, you might find that you're moving to the ha. Then what you do is you practice and you focus on the vibration. You'll feel it here and you'll hear it as well. Kitabuhu. Okay. Here we go. Ha. Ha with the alif mad. In a word, jihadu. Jihadu. To strive. Jihadu. Jihadu. Right? And remember, you have to say after me, right? Jihadu. Okay. He shahidu. 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 Okay. Who. Don't press too hard, right? You're going to strain your throat. So you don't practice too much of this letter at the same time in this way, right? But this is good to bring the letter out, to find the letter. Okay. Hoodoo. Hoodoo. Who. Do. Okay. Let's see what the sukoon. It's 2 words. Okay. Shah. Right? Shahru. Month. That means month. Shahru. Okay. Mahra. That's a dowry. Mahra. Okay. That's the letter ha. You just take a little practice. You just need to remember the vibration. You need to genuinely kind of feel vibration. You don't have to be very stressed, but you just have to feel some kind of vibration. If you're not feeling like some sort of vibration, then it will be difficult to differentiate between the ha and the ha. Ha. Okay. Now on to the letter noon. Very easy letter on the basic level. Okay, this is how it looks. Okay, so this letter noon generally looks like the ta and the ba. It's just that it's smiley. The mouth is just much bigger, right? So in the middle, beginning of a word, it will look exactly like the ba, the ta, and the tha and ya. Same shape, just the dot on top, right? So let's lay over here. There we go. That's the letter noon in the beginning of a word. You'll see its shape is just changed, but the dot and the initial, this arm is there. That's most important. Okay. This in the beginning or in the middle of a word. Same shape as the beginning. It's just, it's now connected on its right hand side. In the end of a word, you'll see it kept its original shape as it is in isolation. And that's really it with the shape of the letter noon. And the letter noon has a very easy sound. It's exactly like the N in English. Okay, N. Okay, like none, right? And the word none actually have two N's in there, two noons in there. None. That is the noon. Can I have some words? So let's get 10 words with the N sound. Beginning, middle, and end. Never, hope, moon, number, hunted, never, none, night, nope, neon, noun, next. I want some words with a end sound at the end and in the middle. Nine, nice. Bean, lovely. Understand, nice. Bend, nonchalant, nice. Night, ending, non. Okay, lovely. Okay, non. Right, that's exactly the noon. Right, seen. So the letter noon is not a complicated letter in terms of sound. Right, so let's quickly run through the basics. Right, na, na with a fatha in a word, and here's the ha again. So that's nahara, and the ra is full. Nahara, right? Nahara, nahara. That means day. Okay, ni. Here we go. Rahmani, rahmani. Here we go. Rah, the sukun, so the letter before it has one unit. Ra plus the rah, ma, ni. Rahmani. The noon of the kasra. That means merciful. Nu. Okay. Nu the dhamma. Nu fi kha. Nu fi kha. Nu fi kha. Nu fi kha. Okay. Let's see the noun with a mad. Very simple as well. Na. Just like nan. Na. As simple as that. Na su. Na su. Okay. Ni. Ni. Munira. 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 Okay, that's a person's name. Here we go. Nu. Nu, the waw mad. And we have Nura. 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 Also someone's name, it means light as well. Munir also means light, but Munir can say it's something that's glowing, right? And Nura, it just means light. Okay. The noon with a sukoon, right? So let's just do the simple version. Okay. So here we go. 10. Remember the ta plus the n. Noon with a sukoon, no sound, no na, ni, nu, it's just n. So ta, n, as one syllable. 10. See in a word. 10 ha, and then we have the ha again. 10 ha, 10 ha. Okay. Bin, here we go. B plus c. Bin. No, so no jerking sound. No jerking sound because the noon is sounded. The sound is coming through the nose, right? The nasal sound. So there's a release, right? So there's no need for a jerking sound. Bin, right? B plus in, bin to who? Bin to who? There's a hat in. Bin to who means his daughter. Bin to who? Okay. Let's look at the waw with the dhamma and the noon, sorry, the noon with the sukoon. Another example, right? So we have the ku, remember the kaf for that shape? Ku, ku, plus the n sound, ku, n, kun, 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 right? And so in the word would be kun tu, kun tu, kun tu, kun tu. Okay. So we're done with the noon. I just want to say a few things about the noon. So the question dot in the noon shape when joined can be confused with dal or dal with dot. Okay, yeah, so be careful if you're confusing the noon. Obviously, everyone would confuse different letters, so different letters with each other. So do be careful of the shapes. Okay, that someone asked a direct message. The second thing I want to say about the letter noon, or the first thing I say about the letter noon, is that this chapter, for example, the specific chapter, the noon, when it has a sukoon, right? The noon, when it has a sukoon, is such a big chapter in tajweed, like huge. It's like I said, this is the probably quarter of tajweed rules that you will learn will be the noon when it has a sukoon, right? So that I will try my best to upload that little by little, the rules of the noon when it has a sukoon as a tajweed lesson at another state, at another time. So it will be good to make a mental note, right? That you're coming now. The noon with the sukoon has a huge chapter in tajweed, specifically the noon when it has a sukoon. The second thing I want to say about the noon, and here's an interesting thing. So the noon actually has a unique part in the sense that it cannot be said without your nose. So if you say, make the n sound, noon, and close your nose, right, you will suddenly see that you cannot say the letter noon. So, okay. So the nasal sound is an essential part of this letter. And that will make this letter also unique. That will have implications in tajweed and into it later, right? So that's also, it's a very nice bit of information to know now. Firstly, that the noon with the sukoon has a huge chapter in tajweed, right? Secondly, the nasal sound is an essential part of the noon, specifically when it has a sukoon, right? So kuntu, if I close my nose, tu, you'll see then there's no noon, tu, right? So Muhammad Riza asked about the jerking sound. Luckily, the nose stepped in, right? So that is why we don't need to make any jerking sound. Okay, I'm gonna move on quickly to the letter ghain. Okay, the letter ghain, let's speak about how it looks first. Okay, so it looks kind of here. You can say this is like, you can say it's like a spanner, right? Or you can say it's a small half circle, big half circle, right? And a dot. Okay. The letter ghain, how are we doing with time? Doing good. Okay, the letter ghain, in terms of shape, is very simple. Just have two shapes, but it's something very easy getting used to. So in the beginning of a word, you would see that it keeps its main shape, the fundamental part of its shape, and that's the small circle, small half a circle on top, right, with a dot. And the other one, the ain, which is coming, has no dot. And you can see the tail is gone. Just like any letter, any other letter that joins, the tail normally falls away. Okay, fine. In the middle of a letter, this is where it changes a bit. Because it's joined on both sides, it cannot really have an opening, right? So what did happen? It just turned into this mushroom shape, right? And it's a very unique shape. You won't miss it. Okay, with a dot, right? The ghain. At the end of a word, it's going to get its tail back. However, it's not going to get its original shape like it is when it's in isolation. It's going to get the mushroom shape, right? So like in this word over there. So at the end of a word, it will look like that. So it's just those two shapes. Okay. The letter ghain is not a very difficult letter, but it does need some practice. And also, whenever generally, when we're dealing with throat letters, you want to be careful with throat letters. Like when we're done with the all the previous letters, right? We're reaching the end now of the letters. I think the next lesson will be the last of the letters. Previous letters were mostly tongue letters, right? Pronounced from the tongue. So that's why when you practice too much or you try the hard letters, your tongue will just get lame. However, with the throat letters, if you strain it too much, you practice too much at the same time with difficult letters, your throat becomes strained. But when your throat becomes strained, it causes like a lot of things like becoming nauseous and other things as well, sore throat. So you really want to be careful about that. So what I want to do in this class, we're going to do a lot of practice, but I really also want to give you the keys of how to perfect this letter on your own, right? And a golden rule with throat letters: do not practice too much of the letter at the same time. One, two, finish. An hour later again, right? If you do more than that, you're going to start straining your throat, no matter how good you are with the letter, right? But generally, if you follow that every day a little, every day a bit, 5 minutes a day, within every 5 minutes a day of practicing as with a specific technique and a plan, guaranteed within a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you're going to see a huge improvement on the letter. Okay, that being said, yes, someone's saying gargle. And that's very true. The ghain has a gargling sound. Now, it also has, before I talk about the gargling sound, for those, if anyone speaks French in the class, I think the ghain is like a French R, right? Instead of Paris, Paris. So there's a ghain. For those who speak French and you don't do the gargling, that's fine. The ghain actually has the gargling sound. It actually has a gargling sound. So this is actually how they teach the ghain in speech therapy to children who have speech delays or speech problems. They actually give them a glass of water and put some water and gargle, right? So if you don't have water, you have to gargle on air, but gargling on air, right, it's strenuous on the throat. So only try it just once, right? So imagine you have water, right, and gargle. And that's the ghain, right? It has to be at the back, in your mouth, deep in. That's the ghain. Now, okay, the kha, sometimes you might pronounce the ghain as a kha. What you need to do is you need to go back to the gargling practice, because the kha and the ghain is kind of the same operation, except that the ghain is more to the front. I mean, the kha is more to the front. The ghain is more inside towards the throat, right? It's actually in the throat, the beginning of the throat. Whereas the kha is also the throat, but it's more inside into the mouth, right? So if I'm going this way inside, you'll first have the kha, then the r at the back, right? The ghain is deeper in. Okay. So to practice this sound, one more time, is a gargling sound. Okay. Let's move on to words. Remember I said not too much. In the throat letters is best also practicing it in words and not on its own. Okay. So let's see over here. Okay. The ghain also is the last of the full letters that we're going to do. So instead of the ra, it's going to be ra, ra. Okay. So this is the last full letter that we do. We now completed all the full letters. Alhamdulillah. Okay. Ra. Let's see in a word. Ghafuri. 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 Okay. With the kasra, ghi. Gentle on the throat. Ghi. Okay. Ra, ghi, bu. Ra, ghi, bu. Ra, ghi, bu. Ghi. Ghi. Ra, Ghibu. Okay, and that's how you would practice. Okay. Ghu. 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 Okay. Ghu. Ghufranaka. And this we all say in our dua after salah. Ghufranaka Rabbana wa ilayka al-masir. Ghufranaka. So we have a sukoon. Ghufranaka. The ra is supposed to be blue, right? Because it's full. غفرانك غفرانك. Okay. Let's see with the mad. Same operation. Gha, gentle on the throat. Gha, gha. Remember, it don't have to be rough, right? You don't have to. Gha. Okay. Taghabun. It's a surah in the Quran called Taghabun. 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 Okay. Ri. Ri. So the secret is finding the place. So when you gargle first, you find where the letter is pronounced, and then you kind of try to focus on the when you're practicing, right? Ri. Ri. Okay. Riba. Riba. Okay, that's backbiting. Riba. Okay. Ru. 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 Here we go. Ta, and the ta is supposed to be blue as well. Again, my mistake. Ta is full. Ta, and don't forget the bowl shape of the tongue, right? Ta, ta, pa, 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 ta, ru, ta, ta, ru, ta, ta, ru, ta. That means tyrant. Okay. With a sukoon, right? Here's a word, maghrib, like maghrib salah, the word we say all the time. But sometimes we say it with a kha, we say maghrib, right? Okay, so we want to practice the correct way here. Magh, magh, right? Don't stress too much. Magh, by the gargling sound, and it don't have to be crisp, clear. Magh, okay? Magh, riba. Remember the ba with the sukoon can have a jerking sound. The ra, ri, plus the b as one syllable, riba, riba, magh, riba, magh, riba, magh, riba. Okay, here we go. Also a word that we all know, we say it in the salah every day, in Surah Fatiha, maghdubi, maghdubi, right? Maghdubi, right? So not maghdubi, more inside the mouth, in the gargling place. Maghdubi, maghdubi, maghdubi. Okay. Okay, before we do the ayn, if you I want you to have some water. If you feel that you've been practicing, your throat's feeling a bit dry, I'm sure it's feeling dry. So get some water, and before we do this letter. So let me speak about this letter. So generally this letter, this is the highlight, right? So this letter, many people give up hope on this letter. And we're going to see why. So this letter is from the throat, just like the ha is also from the throat, and the kha from the throat. The letter ayn is also from the throat. And they say that the letter dad is the hardest letter in the Arabic language. But I would argue that the ayn is the hardest letter, but for non-Arabic speakers. So if you did not grow up speaking Arabic or reading Arabic, reading Quran with tajweed from a very young age, you're generally going to have difficulty with this letter, okay? Because it's pronounced from a specific place in the throat, and you don't really have, it's not one of those muscles that you can specifically control, like move your hand. It's one more like a reflex kind of area, right? So it generally needs a lot of practice, okay? But I want to do a certain, we're gonna try various methods, right? Because not one method works for everyone. People need different methods, right? So we're going to move from very simple, the simplest way, right? Then we're going to do some explanation, practice again, and some more explanation, and practice again. With that process, that is going to be how you're going to practice, right? So you're going to have, I'll give a sheet of words, or that the words that we're going to do in the class now, only with words for the letter Ain, right? And that words you try to practice as much as you can, but not at once, right? But as is like every day. If there's one letter you would say, I'm going to, if there's one letter you can, if you have to say, I can only practice one letter a day for now, for the next 2 weeks, I would say, let it be the letter Ain. Okay. And we're going to practice it on the words and with complete focus. If there's one thing I can say before we move into this letter, in my experience, right, of trying various methods with the letter Ain, for those who cannot say the letter Ain, the best way, right, that really works is the simplest way. And that is actually to just try your best every time you say it. And you know what? And you move on. Don't sit on it too long. When you come, but the rule is when you come across a letter, you have to say, okay, I'm gonna try my best now. And you try your best. And then whatever happens, you move on. If you do that over 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 2 months, you will see the letter Ain will just come naturally without knowing. That being said, let's move into the letter Ain. Okay. Let's just look at the shape. It's generally just like the ghain that we've done before, right? With no dot. In the beginning of the word, it's like a half a circle connected to the next letter with no dot. In the middle of a word, looks like a mushroom connected on both sides with no dot. At the end of the word, same thing. It's going to look like the mushroom. The tail comes back and there's no dot. Right? That's the letter Ain. Okay. So I'm generally going to, if you see here, I put here like it's a number 3. That is how they write the letter Ain in Arabic when they're chatting, right? Then they put a number 3. If they speak writing in English and you want to show the letter Ain, they normally put a number 3. I don't make it, I know sometimes you'll see it as an A. The reason why I don't want to make it an A is because I want you to know it's not a, right? It has actually a distinct letter. So I don't want you to see the letter A and then say Ain. Okay. First thing, the letter is from the throat. Okay. So here's the first method. The first method is imitation, right? Imitation. So whether you're going to say it exactly like the way I'm going to say it or not, just try to imitate me, right? Now, the first rule of the letter Ain, in terms of application, is you remember one thing. Open your mouth as wide as you can. Open your mouth as wide as you can. That's the prerequisite to practice the letter Ain. Okay, so imagine you're eating a big burger, or if you're South African, imagine you're eating a big Gatsby, right? And you have to eat that, you have to take a big bite, right? So do it in this way. Ah, 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 ah. Okay, that's in practice. Okay, fine. Now let's try it in words using that method. Open your mouth wide and just imitate me. I'm doing it one more time. Ah, ah, ah. Okay, so I'm gonna say ah, and then I'm gonna say ah. So you kind of hear the difference. Ah, 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 a, 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 a. Okay. Okay, let's do the words. Let's practice that method in the words. Okay. Bismillah. Okay. Here we go. The first word, sami'a. So this is like when you're making salah, sami'a Allahu liman hamida, sami'a. There's the a. Okay. Sami'a. 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 Good. Okay. Here we go. Ibadi. Ibadi. Remember, try your best each time. And best don't necessarily mean like straight, like right? It simply means like just focus on the sound and try to work your throat. Okay? Ibadi. Ibadi. Open mouth. Ibadi. Okay. The last one with the dhamma, u. Okay? So here you're just going to round your mouth. U. U. It's from the throat. Umara. Umara. Try that. Umara. So the incorrect way would be umara. U. So you're going to be making more throaty in the middle of your throat here. Umara. Okay. Fine. No problem. Now let's move on to another method. Now I first want to know, get some feedback. How is everyone finding the ayn so far? Now that you've tried it, what can you tell me about the letter ayn? Where does it come from? Trying to get the chat up. Okay, there we go. So how do you, where do you feel that the letter ayn is coming from? Is it coming from, is it being pronounced from the throat, right? Someone saying back of the throat. Okay, good. Back of the throat. It's like pinching the back of my throat. It comes from the throat, mid and sides. It's very important. I want you to take note of what you're saying because we're gonna have a look now where this letter is coming from. From the chest, okay. I'm not saying it right or wrong. Middle of the throat almost. It's easy to pronounce alone, but once you have to join it with other letters, it becomes a bit difficult for me. Yes, that's fine. That's part of the learning process. It's a step in the learning. Like you're about to sneeze. Okay. Okay. Lovely. So we had about throat, chest. Okay. What we're going to do now is we're going to take it a step further and see where this letter is coming from generally. Right? Okay. Now, this is called the throat culture. Right? When the doctor put the stick in your mouth. Right? And I'm sure everyone has been through this sometime with you when you were much younger or lately. You must have gone through this test already. What I want you to do is just for a moment, picture you are sitting in the theater. I mean, we sit in the theater, sorry, sitting with the doctor's office, and he's giving you a throat culture, right? So he's putting the stick in your mouth. He's putting it on your tongue, right? He's putting it on your tongue, and he's not pressing it like hard, right? Like you see in this picture, very hard, but basically he's pressing your tongue down because you want to see your tonsils, right? It's very important. Okay, so just do that. Okay. Now, I want to tell you what to do it again, but I'll tell you what you want to look out for. When you're doing that, when you're picturing that your throat is being pressed down a little, there's a bit of pressure on your throat, I want you to feel the part, there's a part in your throat, just at the back of your throat, right? That's feeling a bit uncomfortable, or it's feeling exposed, right? Or it's a bit like cold there, that uncomfortable area, right? That you feel that's now open, that's in the doctor's sight. Now, that area there at the back, generally, that is the area where the ayn is coming from. Now, why is this important as a first step? Right? Is a first step because if you say, if you're not focused on that part in your throat, right? Like there when the doctor's looking there at the back, you're not going to get the ayn out. So now, that being said, let's try those words again, focusing on that area, right? So, ah, ah. Focus on pronouncing a letter, producing the sound from at the back, there where that area is feeling uncomfortable, because that is generally where the ghain is coming from. So remember this, you want to focus on producing the sound from that area, right? That's exposed there, that's open at the back, there in your throat. So let's try it again. So, sami'a, right? Remember, focus at the back of your throat. Sami'a, sami'a. Okay, here we go. Ai, ai. At the back of your throat. Remember, we have an idea now where we're producing the sound from. Ai, ibadi, ibadi, ibadi. Okay. Umar. Remember the back of your throat. Try to picture and try to feel that area. Remember, as if the tongue is being pushed down, and then now that area is feeling exposed, that area, right? So, umara, umara, inside at the back of your throat. Okay. That's the second way, right? It's very close to where the qaf is pronounced, but it's further in, right? The qaf, in all those other letters, there's an element of the tongue that's involved. In terms of the tongue is touching and here and there. With these letters, the ayn and that, the ayn and the ha, the tongue is not involved. It's the throat. It's happening inside the throat. So that's an important thing to remember, right? But in terms of yes to your answer, it's where the qaf is in terms of like it's at the back, but the ayn is more at the back. And specifically, like I said, in your throat, specifically in your throat. Okay. Okay, is everyone with me so far? Before we move on to the next step, is where we now really identify where exactly the ayn is coming from and how is the sound of the ayn produced. And this is going to be very important for you in the long run. It's a bit of theory, but in the long run, as you're moving forward, it's going to become very, 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 very important. Okay. Okay, this is good to hear. If anyone else is with us, do let us know, right? Because this is it's really important. Okay. All right. I want you to look at this picture over here. I don't normally use charts and pictures, but I make an exception for this letter because it's absolutely necessary. Because normally charts and pictures can complicate a letter, but this letter is already complicated. It need you will need this if you're struggling with this letter. Okay. Focus here on the blue area over here. This blue area here, this is the throat, right? It carries on down, it ends about there. It's the throat area. Okay. Now this, I want you to take specifically note of this thing over here. This is called the epiglottis, right? Now, obviously, we can't control that thing physically, but let's just see how this ayn is produced. So in this picture over here, this is the shape of my throat while I'm saying, just normal, okay. Have a look at this one over here on the left. Just look what is happening. Now notice this is at the back of your throat, right? And remember when you're doing the throat culture, the doctor is looking here at the back, straight at the back here, in your throat. And this is the area we said where the ayn is pronounced from. But now look at this epiglottis over here. Look what's happening. Look on this side. You see how wide it is? It's away. The throat is open. What happens here? It's choking, right? It's constricting. It's creating a very narrow area. So when you say, like on this side, what's happening, right, is that the tongue at the back, right, is moving to the back, going down, pushing the epiglottis, choking the throat, and creating that sound. Yes. So it's creating that choking sound. That is what's happening, right? you need to know that what is happening to understand how the sound is produced, so that there's no more mystery about, the ayn. So if you can't pronounce it, that's fine. You will pronounce it because you know where it's being pronounced from. So as you practice, this is going to be very important. So first thing, it's at the back of your throat, right? Second thing, you want to know that something is choking something, okay? So let's just look at me for an example. I'm going to say the bit of the ayn. You don't have to try this. It's going to be very strenuous. I want you to watch the back of my tongue. Watch how my tongue drops. And as I say, it shoots up when I say the sound. But as I'm saying, the tongue at the back is dropping because it's to create that strain there at the back. Okay? Ah, 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 ah. If you see how my tongue shoot up when I say ah, 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 ah. Okay, that's obviously not for you to practice. It can strain your throat. But I just want you to see where the ayn is coming from. Inside of my throat. Ah, 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 ah. So my tongue, you see at the back, is going up and down. What's happening when it's going down is creating that choking at the back of my throat. And when it releases, that's when the sound comes out. Okay. So there's the ayn. So in terms of how the ayn is produced, fine. The challenge is that we are not everyone is used to pronouncing sounds from that part of your throat, right? Or moving your tongue in that way. That's where it becomes challenging, right? And you can't specifically control that area like you control your hand. But like with anything else, with practice, it absolutely will come. Like even in Egypt, so in Cairo, there's a lot of foreigners with me studying. All of them can pronounce the ayn by now because they've been here and they've been saying it all the time. And they say it obviously every day because they're interacting on the street. So you absolutely can say the ayn. However, now we went through the stages, right? The just imitation in the general area of the ayn to the specific area of the ayn and how it's pronounced, right? Now, when you practice the ayn, I want you to go through this again, right? And practice the words and focus on that, knowing that how the sound is produced, and just do your best every time. So let's try the words again, right? With the fatha. Okay. Sami'a, sami'a, sami'a. Open your mouth. Sami'a, sami'a. Okay. Here we go. Ibadi. Inside in your throat. Ibadi. Okay. Dhamma. Umara. That's a name like Umar. Umara. Umara. Okay. Move on to the fatha. I mean with the mad. Right? So the ayn with the alif mad. Same thing, just with the extension. Instead of okay. Alamina. So like in Surah Fatiha, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Alamina. 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 Okay. Inside at the back of your throat. Right? A bit of a strain there at the back. Nasta'in. Surah Fatiha also. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Nasta'inu. 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 In the throat. Remember, every time you say it, you do your best. Okay. Okay. Na'udhu. Na'udhu. right? And there you can see it look kind of like the zal as well. Then the noon looks like the zal. However, the zal does not join to the letter after it, and the noon does, right? So if you do get confused, remember that. Na'udhu, we seek refuge in. That's what this would mean. Na'udhu, na'udhu. Okay. The ayn with the sukoon obviously is going to be the most challenging, because to say the letter with a sukoon, you have to be able to pronounce the letter. But just like in the other situations, with practice, it will improve. Okay, so let's use a famous word that we read in Surah Fatiha also every day. So I made sure that the words are words that you read every day so that you can practice every day. 5 times a day to practice Ain. But remember, just once. So when you're reading Surah Fatiha, just read it the once. Iyaka na'budu, and you carry on, even if you didn't get it perfect. Okay. Na, na. Right? So you'll see I have to say the ayn with a sukoon, which is no vowel. So it's going to be just the ah. It's very challenging. So you have to go from the na to the ah in the throat. Na, na. Okay. You practice that little by little and don't force it. Little by little every day. Na, budu. Na, na, budu. Na, bu, do. Okay. Here we go. So na'budu means we worship. Here we go. Ta, 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 ma, lu. Ta, malu. Ta, malu. Okay. And that brings us to the end of the lesson.